I think my devices hate when I record, because my fucking iPad just turned off mid-record, but I guess that'll be like my intro to the video or whatever. But yeah, anyways, so we're going to read chapter 4 on page 52. If you have your own book, feel free to read along on starting on page 52. You can pause to do whatever you need to do. If it's getting a snack, drinking some water, both of those things, go to the bathroom real quick, or just whatever. Depending on how long this chapter is, which from what I'm looking at seems pretty long. No, it's not too long. It's only 12 pages? 13 pages? 13 pages. Yeah, it's only 13 pages long. But, depending on how long it takes for me to read it, depending on how long it takes for me to read it, depends on whether or not I'll read chapter 5 in this video. So, let's get started. I've read these first pages so many times. Okay. 4. Invitations. In my dream, it was very dark, and what dim light there was seemed to be radiating from Edith's skin. I couldn't see her face, just her back as she walked away from me, leaving me in the blackness. No matter how fast I ran, I couldn't catch up to her. No matter how loud I called, she never turned. I got more and more frantic to get to her, until that anxiety woke me. It was the middle of the night, but I couldn't sleep again for what seemed like a very long time. After that, she was in my dreams nearly every night, but was always on the edges, never within reach. The month that followed the accident was uneasy, tense, and at first embarrassing. I found myself at the center of attention for the rest of the week, which really sucked. Taylor Crowley was super annoying, following me around, coming up with different hypothetical ways to make it up to me. I tried to convince her that what I wanted more than anything else was for her to forget about it, especially since nothing had actually happened to me, but she wouldn't give up. She found me between classes and sat at our now crowded lunch table. Michaela and Erica didn't seem to like that. They flashed more side-eye at her than they did at each other, which made me worry that I gained another unwelcome fan. Like being into the new kid was the latest fad. No one was worried about Edith. No one followed her around or asked for her eyewitness account. I always included her in my version. She was the hero. She had pulled me out of the way and been nearly crushed too. But all anyone ever said was that they hadn't even realized she was there until the van pulled away. I wondered a lot about why no one else had noticed her standing so far away from her car. So far away by her car, before she was suddenly and impossibly saving my life. There was only one solution I could think of, and I didn't like it. It had to be because no one was so aware of Edith. No one else was so aware of Edith. No one watched her the way I did. It was pathetic and kind of stalkerish. People avoided Edith the same way they usually did. The Colins and the Hales sat at the same table they always sat at. Not eating, talking only to each other. None of them ever glanced my way anymore. When Edith sat beside me in class, she was as far away as possible, like usual. She seemed totally unaware that I was sitting there next to her. like my seat was empty. Only now and then, when her fists would suddenly ball up, skin stretched even wider over her knuckles, did I wonder if she wasn't as entirely oblivious as she seemed. I wanted very much to continue our conversation from the hospital hallway. In the day after the accident, I tried. She'd been so furious when we talked before, and even though I really wanted to know what actually happened and I thought I deserved the truth, I also knew I'd been pretty pushy, considering that she had just saved my life and all. I didn't think I thanked her properly. She was already in her chair when I got to biology. She didn't turn when I sat down, just kept staring straight ahead. She showed no sign that she knew I was there. "Hey, Edith," I said. She turned her head half an inch toward me, but her eyes stayed focused on the blackboard. She gave one little half nod, then turned her face away from me. And that was the last contact I'd had with her, though she was there, a foot away from me every day. I watched her sometimes, unable to stop myself. Always from a distance, though, in the cafeteria or parking lot. I watched as her golden eyes grew noticeably darker day by day. Then abruptly were honey-colored again, and the slow progression toward black would start over. But in class I gave no more notice than that she existed than she showed toward me. It was miserable. And the dreams continued. She wished she hadn't pushed me out of the way of Taylor's van. I couldn't think of any other explanation. Since she obviously preferred me dead, she was pretending that I was. Despite my outright lies, the tone of my emails got my mom worked up. She called a few times, demanding to know I was okay. I tried to convince her it was just the rain that had me down. Michaela, at least, was pleased by the obvious coolness between my lab partner and me. I guess she would have been worried that the trauma would have bonded us or something. She got more confident, sitting on the edge of the table to talk before biology class started, ignoring Edith as completely as Edith ignored us. The snow washed away for good after that one dangerously icy day. Michaela complained that she never got to stage her big snowball fight, but she was happy that the beach trip would soon be possible. The rain continued heavily, though, and the weeks passed. I hadn't really been aware of how much time was passing. Most days looked the same, gray, green, and more gray. My stepdad had always complained that Phoenix didn't have seasons, but as far as I could tell, Forks was much worse. I had no idea spring was anywhere near appearing until I was walking to the cafeteria with Jeremy one rainy morning. "Hey, Bo," he asked. I wanted to hurry out of the rain, but Jeremy was barely shuffling forward. I slowed my pace to match his. "What's up, Jeremy?" "I was just wondering if anyone's asked you to the spring dance yet. You know, it's girls' choice." Okay, what is on my foot? Why the hell does my foot itch so much? Okay, whatever. I was just wondering if anyone's asked you to the spring dance yet. You know, it's girls' choice. "Oh, no." Do you think Michaela will ask you?" "I hope not," I said, maybe a little too fast. He looked up at me, surprised. "Why not?" "I don't do dances." "Oh." We shuffled forward for a minute in silence. He was thoughtful. I was impatient to get out of the drizzle. "Do you mind if I tell her that?" he asked. "No, that's probably a good idea. I don't want to have to tell anyone no if I don't have to." "Okay. When's the dance again?" We were close to the cafeteria now. He pointed to a bright yellow poster advertising the dance. I never noticed it before, but it was curling around the edges and a little washed out, like it had been up for a while. "A week from Saturday," he said. I was pretty sure Jeremy had already said something when The next morning, Michaela was not her usual bubbly self in English. At lunch, she sat away. At lunch, she sat away from both Jeremy and me, and didn't say much to anyone. She stayed quiet as she walked with me to biology. But she came over like usual to sit on the edge of my lab table. As always, I was too aware of Edith sitting close enough to touch, but still so far away she might as well have been a product of my imagination. So, Michaela said, looking at the floor instead of me, Jeremy said that you don't do dances? Yeah, that's true. She looked at me then, her expression hurt and a little angry. I hadn't even told her no yet, and I already felt guilty. Oh, she said. I thought maybe he was making it up. Sorry, no. Why would he make up a story like that? She frowned. I think he wants me to ask him. I forced a smile. You should. Jeremy's great. She shrugged. I guess. Then she took a deep breath and looked me straight in the eye with a quick, nervous smile. Would this I don't dance thing change if I was the one asking you to go? From the corner of my eye, I saw Edith's head suddenly tilt in my direction, like she was listening to my answer too. It took me a little too long to respond. I felt guilty, but mostly distracted. Was Edith listening? Sorry again. Michaela's face fell. Would it change if someone else asked you? Did Edith see how Michaela's eyes flickered in her direction? No, it's a moot point anyway. I'm going to be in Seattle that day. I needed to get out of town. 2 Saturdays from now was the perfect time to go. Does it have to be that weekend? Michaela asked. Yeah, but don't worry about me. You should take Jeremy. He is much more fun than I am. Yeah, I guess, she mumbled, then turned to walk back to her seat. I watched her shoulders slump forward, and I felt horrible. I closed my eyes and pushed my fingers into my temples, trying to force Michaela's dejected posture out of my head. Mrs. Banner started talking, and I sighed and opened my eyes. Edith was staring at me, that familiar expression of frustration even more obvious now in her black eyes. I stared back, surprised, expecting her to look away. She didn't. Her eyes kept boring into mine, like she was trying to find something really important inside them. I continued to stare also, totally unable to break the connection, even if I wanted to. My hands started to shake. Miss Cullen, the teacher called, looking for the answer to some question I hadn't heard. The Krebs cycle, Edith answered, seeming reluctant as she turned to look at Mrs. Banner. Ooh, hold up, my hip hurts. Okay. I put my head down, pretending to stare at the book. As soon as her eyes released me, it bothered me. The rush of emotion pulsing through me, just because she happened to look at me for the first time in 6 weeks. It wasn't normal. It was actually pretty pathetic. And probably more than that, unhealthy. I tried hard not to be aware of her for the rest of the class, or since that was impossible, at least not to let her know that I was aware of her. When the bell finally rang, I turned away from her to stack up my books, expecting her to rush out as usual. Bo, her voice shouldn't sound so familiar, like I'd been hearing it all my life instead of just an hour here and there a few weeks ago. I turned slowly toward her, not wanting to feel what I knew I would feel. I turned toward her slowly, not wanting to feel what I knew I would feel when I looked at her too perfect face. I'm sure my expression was guarded. Hers was unreadable. She didn't say anything. Yes, I asked. She just looked at me. She looked at me. Are you or are you not talking to me again? Not, she said, but her lips curled up into a smile, her dimples flashing. Okay. I looked away, down at my hands, then over toward the chalkboard. It was hard to concentrate when I looked at her, and this conversation wasn't making much sense. I'm sorry, she said, and there was no joke in her voice now. I'm being very rude, I know, but it's better this way, really. I looked at her again. Her expression was totally serious now. I don't know what you mean. It's better if we're not friends, she explained. Trust me. My eyes narrowed. I'd heard that one before. She seemed surprised by my reaction. What are you thinking? She asked. I guess that it's too bad you didn't figure this out earlier. Saved yourself the regret. Regret? My answer seemed to have caught her off guard. Regret for what? For not letting Taylor's van crush me when it had the chance. She looked completely shocked. She stared at me for a minute, wide-eyed, and then finally spoke. And when she finally spoke, she almost sounded mad. You think I regret saving your life? The words were quiet, just under her breath, but still pretty intense. I glanced quickly toward the front of the room where a couple of kids were still lingering. I caught one of them looking at us. He looked away, and I turned back to Edith. Yeah, I said just as quietly. I mean, what else? Seems kind of obvious. She made the strangest sound. She exhaled through her teeth, and it was like a hiss. She still looked mad. You're an idiot, she told me. Well, that was my limit. It was bad enough that I was so fixated on this girl, bad enough that I thought about her all the time, dreamed about her every night. I didn't need to sit here like the moron she thought I was and just stare while she insulted me. I grabbed my books and lurched out of my chair, knowing all the while that she was right. I was an idiot because I wanted to stay, even if all I got to hear was more abuse from her. I need to get out of the room as fast as possible. So, of course, I tripped over the threshold and half fell through the doorway. My books scattered across the sidewalk. I stood there for a second with my eyes closed, thinking about leaving them. Then I sighed and bent to pick them up. Edith was there. She already stacked them in a pile, which she offered to me. I took them without really looking at her. Thanks, I mumbled. You're welcome, she answered, still mad sounded like. I straightened up and hurried to the gym without looking back. Gym didn't make my day any better. We'd moved on to basketball on the first day, even though all of them had seen me play volleyball, and the other kids still seemed to think I should be good. It didn't take them long to figure out the truth. They never passed to me now, which was good, but with all the running, I still managed to have a few accidents per game. Today was worse than yesterday because I couldn't concentrate on my feet. All I could think of was Edith. It was a relief, as usual, when I was finally free to leave. I couldn't wait to be back inside my truck alone. The truck was in pretty decent shape, all things considered. I had to replace the taillights after the accident, but that was it. If the paint job weren't already hopeless, maybe I would have had to do something about the new scrapes. Taylor's parents had to sell her van for parts. I rounded the corner and nearly had a heart attack. Someone small and thin was leaning against the side of my truck. I skidded to a stop, then took a deep breath. It was just Erica. I started walking again. Hey, Erica, I called. Hi, Bo. What's up? I asked when I went to unlock the door. I glanced down at her and fumbled with my keys. She looked really uncomfortable. I was wondering if you would go to the spring dance with me. I carefully inserted the car key into the lock. Sorry, Erica, I'm not going to the dance. I had to look at her then. Her face was down, her black hair hiding her eyes. Oh, okay, because I'm going to be in Seattle, I said quickly, trying to make her feel better. It's the only day I can go, so, oh well. I hope it's fun and all. She glanced up from under her hair. Okay, she repeated, but her voice was slightly more cheerful now. Maybe next time. Sure, I agreed, then immediately regretted it. Hopefully she wouldn't take it too literally. "See ya," she said over her shoulder. She was already escaping. I waved, but she didn't see it. I heard a low laugh. Edith was walking past the front of my truck, looking straight forward, her mouth not betraying even the hint of a smile. I froze for a sec. I wasn't prepared to be so close to her. I was used to bracing myself before biology, but this was unexpected. She kept walking. I jerked the door open and climbed in, slamming it a little too hard behind me. I revved the deafening engine twice and reversed out into the aisle. Edith was in our car already, 2 spaces down, sliding out into the lane in front of me, cutting me off. She stopped me there to wait for her family, I assumed. I could see the 4 of them walking this way, but they were all still all the way back by the cafeteria. I looked in my rearview mirror. A line was beginning to form right behind me. Taylor Crowley was in her newly acquired used Sentra, waving. I ducked my head and pretended I couldn't see her. While I was sitting there, focusing all of my efforts on not staring at the driver in front of me, I heard a knock on my passenger side window. It was Taylor. I glanced in my mirror again, confused. Her Sentra was still running, the door left open. I leaned across the cab to crank the window down. It was stiff. I got it halfway there, then gave up. "Sorry, Taylor, I can't move. I'm pinned in." I gestured to the Volvo. Obviously, there was nothing I could do. "Oh, I know. I just wanted to ask you something while we're trapped here." She grinned. What was with this school? Was this some kind of practical joke? Hazing the new guy? Hold up, I gotta drink something. My throat's killing me. I know drinking soda will make my throat feel better. Oh, this is taking longer than it took the last chapter. How long was the last chapter anyways? (41 to 51). Oh, it's only 10 pages. Why is this taking... No, it makes sense that it's taking longer. But it's only like 3 pages longer. Anyways, where was I? Right. "Will you go to the spring dance with me?" She continued. I'm not going to be in town, Taylor." I realized I sounded too sharp. I had to remember it wasn't Taylor's fault that Michaela and Erica had already used up my patience. "Yeah, Michaela told me that," she admitted. "Then why?" She shrugged. "I was hoping you were just letting her down easy." "Okay, it was totally her fault." "Sorry, Taylor," I said, not feeling nearly as bad as I had with Michaela and Erica. "I'm not going to the dance." "That's cool," she said, unfazed. "We still have prom." Before I could say anything, she was walking back to her car. I could feel the red patches staining my face. Straight ahead, Archie, Royal, Eleanor, and Jessamine were all sliding into the Volvo. In the rearview mirror, I could see Edith's eyes staring at me. They were crinkled around the edges, and her shoulders were shaking with laughter. It was like she'd heard everything Taylor had said and found my splotchy reaction hilarious. I revved my engine, wondering how much damage it would do to the Volvo and the black car beside it if I just muscled my way through it and made my escape. I was pretty sure my truck would win that fight. But they were all in, and Edith was speeding away with her nearly silent engine. Sorry, y'all. Allergies are killing me, or I'm sick. It's one of the two. I tried to concentrate on something else, anything else, as I drove home. Would Michaela ask Jeremy to the dance? Would he blame me if she didn't? Was Taylor serious about the prom? What would be my excuse for that one. Maybe I could work out a visit to my mom, and maybe she could come here. Or maybe she could come here. What was I going to make for dinner? We hadn't had chicken in a while. But each time I finished answering my own question, my mind went right back to Edith. By the time I got home, I'd run out of new questions, so I gave up trying to think about something else. I decided to make chicken enchiladas because it would keep me busy for a while and I didn't have that much homework. It also forced me to concentrate on all the dicing: chicken, chilies, onions. All the while though, I kept running through biology class again. Trying to analyze every word she's spoken to me. What did she mean it was better if we weren't friends? My stomach dropped when I realized the only thing she could have meant. She must know how obsessed I was with her. It wasn't like I was hiding it very well. She didn't want to lead me on, so we couldn't even be friends. Because she didn't want to hurt my feelings the way it hurt Michaela and Erica today. Taylor seemed fine. Edith didn't want to have to feel that guilt. Because she wasn't interested in me at all. Which made perfect sense, obviously, because I wasn't interesting. My eyes were starting to sting and tear from the onions. Yeah, sure, from the onions. I grabbed a dish towel and ran it under the faucet, then rubbed it across my eyes. It didn't really help. I was boring. I knew this about myself. And Edith was the opposite of boring. This wasn't about her secret, whatever it was, even if I even remembered any of the insane moment clearly. At this moment, I almost believed the story I told everyone else. It made a lot more sense than what I thought I had seen. But she didn't need a secret to be out of my league. She was also brilliant and mysterious and beautiful and completely perfect. If she was, in fact, able to lift a full-size van with one hand, it really didn't matter. Either way, she was fantasy and I was the most mundane kind of reality. And that was fine. I could leave her alone. I would leave her alone. Okay. Okay, sorry. Skip up. Is a little firefly. Anyways. If she was, in fact, nope. I would get through my self-imposed sentence here in Purgatory, and then hopefully some school in the Southwest or possibly Hawaii would offer me a scholarship. I tried to think about palm trees and sun while I finished dinner. Charlie seemed worried when he came home and smelled the green peppers, but he came around after the first bite. It was kind of a strange feeling, but also a good feeling, watching as he started to trust me in the kitchen. Dad? I asked when he was almost done. Yeah, Bo. I wanted to let you know that I'm going to Seattle a week from Saturday, just for the day. I didn't want to ask permission. It set a bad precedence. Precedent? I don't know. But the statement form sounded rude, so I added, if that's okay. Why? He sounded surprised, like he couldn't imagine any reason that would make someone want to leave Forks' town limits. Oh my god. Well, I wanted to get a few books. The library here is pretty limited. What the fuck was that? Oh no. Oh, that'd be all. My charger dropped. Okay, cool. Really don't want this dying. I don't think it died. Okay. I don't think it'll die. Wait, hold up. Let me try the bottom one. There we go. That's better. It's charging, right? You're charging. You're charging. Okay. Well, I wanted to get a few books. The library here is pretty limited. Maybe some warmer clothes. I had a little extra money since, thanks to Charlie, I hadn't had to buy a car. Though the truck did need a bigger gasoline budget than I'd expected. And the cold weather clothes I'd picked up in Phoenix seemed to have been designed by people who never actually lived in temperatures below 70, but had once had a climate described to them. That truck probably doesn't get very good gas mileage, he said, echoing my thoughts. I know, I'll stop in Montesano and Olympia, and Tacoma if I have to. Are you going all by yourself? Yeah. Seattle is a big city. You could get lost, he warned. Dad, Phoenix is 5 times the size of Seattle, and I can read a map. Don't worry about me. Do you want me to come with you? I wondered if he was really that worried about me, or if he just thought all the Saturdays he left me alone were adding up to neglect. Probably worried. I was sure that in his head he still pictured me as a 5-year-old most of the time. That's okay. It's not going to be very exciting. Will you be back in time for the dance? I just stared at him until he got it. It didn't take him long. Oh, right. Yeah, I said. I didn't get my balance issues from my mom. The next morning at school, I parked as far as possible from the shiny silver Volvo. I would keep my distance. I wouldn't notice her anymore. She'd had nothing to complain about from here on out. As I slammed the truck door shut, I lost my hold on the key, and it splashed down into a puddle at my feet. As I bent to retrieve it, a pale hand flashed out and grabbed it first. I jerked upright, almost smacking my head into her. Edith Cullen was right there, leaning casually against my truck. How do you do that? I gasped. Do what? She held out my key while she spoke. As I reached for it, she dropped it in my palm. Appear out of thin air? Bo, it's not my fault that you were exceptionally unobservant. Her voice was just a murmur. Muted velvet, and her lips were holding back a smile. Like she thought I was hilarious. How was I supposed to ignore her when she wouldn't ignore me? That was what she wanted, right? Me out of her long, bronzy hair. Wasn't that what she said to me yesterday? We couldn't be friends. Then why was she talking to me? Was she sadistic? Was this her idea of fun? Torture the idiotic kid she could never possibly care about? I stared at her, frustrated. Her eyes were light again today, a deep golden honey color. My thoughts got confused, and I had to look down. Her feet were just a half foot from mine, oriented toward me, unmoving, like she was waiting for a response. I looked past her toward the school and said the first dumb things that came to my mind. Why the traffic jam last night? I thought you were supposed to be pretending I don't exist. Ah, that was for Taylor's sake. She was figuratively dying for her chance at you. I blinked. What? Irritation from yesterday's memory bled into my voice. I hadn't thought Edith and Taylor were friends. Did Taylor ask her? That didn't seem likely. And I'm not pretending you don't exist. She continued like I hadn't spoken. I met her eyes again, trying hard to keep my mind focused. No matter how golden they seemed or long her lashes were against her pale violet lids. I don't know what you want from me, I told her. It was annoying how my thoughts seemed to explode straight out of my lips when I was near her, like I had no filter at all. I would have never spoken this way to another girl. The amused half-smile disappeared, and her face was suddenly guarded. Nothing, she said too quickly, like she was lying. Then you probably should have let the van take me out. Easier that way. She stared for a second, and when she answered, her voice was cold. Bo, you are utterly absurd. Did I get my math wrong? I think I got my math wrong. Oh no, I'm almost done. I think. Yeah, I'm almost done. Okay. Bo, you are utterly absurd. I must be right about the torture thing. I was just a way for her to pass time in this boring town. An easy mark. I was past her in one long stride. Wait, she said, but I forced myself to keep moving, not to look back. I'm sorry, that was rude, she said, somehow right next to me, keeping pace though my legs were probably twice as long as hers. I'm not saying it wasn't rude, but it was rude to say it out loud. Oh, wait, I'm not saying it wasn't true, but it was rude to say it out loud. Why won't you leave me alone? I wanted to ask you something, but you sidetracked me. I sighed and slowed, though she didn't seem like she was having a hard time keeping up. Fine. I was such a sucker. What do you want? I was wondering if a week from Saturday, the day of the spring dance, I stopped wheeling to look down at her. Is this funny to you? She stared at me, seeming oblivious to the drizzling rain that was falling. She was apparently wearing no makeup at all, nothing smudged or ran. Of course, her face was just that perfectly natural. For a second, I was actually angry. Angry that she had to be so beautiful. Angry that her beauty had made her cruel. Angry that I was the object of her cruelty, and even though I knew it, I still couldn't successfully walk away from her. Her amused expression was back, the hint of dimples threatening on her cheeks. Will you please allow me to finish? She asked. Walk away, I told myself. I didn't move. I heard that you were going to Seattle that day, and I wondered if you wanted a ride. That was not what I was expecting. Huh? Do you want a ride to Seattle? I wasn't sure where her joke was heading now. With who? Myself, obviously. She enunciated every syllable like she thought maybe English wasn't my first language. Why? Was there a punchline? Well, I was planning to go to Seattle in the next few weeks, and to be honest, I'm not sure if your truck can make it. Finally, I was able to start walking again, goaded by the insult to my truck. Make fun of me all you want, but leave the truck out of it, I said. Again, she kept up easily. Why would you think I'm making fun of you? She asked. The invitation is genuine. My truck is great, thanks. Can your truck make it to Seattle in one tank of gas? Before the truck, I never cared one way or the other about any car, but I could feel a prejudice against Volvos forming. I don't see how that's your problem. The wasting of finite sources is everyone's problem, she said primly. Seriously, Edith, I felt a charge go through me as I said her name aloud, and I didn't like it. I can't keep up with you. I thought you didn't want to be my friend. I said it would be better if we weren't friends, not that I didn't want to be. Oh wow, great, that's all cleared up. Thick sarcasm. I realized I had stopped walking again. I looked down at her rain-washed face, clean and perfect, and my thoughts stuttered to a halt. It would be more prudent for you to not be my friend, she explained. But I'm tired of trying to stay away from you, Bo. There was no humor in her face now. Her eyes were intense, narrowed, the long lines of her lashes stark black against her skin. Her voice had a strange heat to it. I couldn't remember how to breathe. Will you accept a ride with me to Seattle? She demanded, voice still burning. I couldn't speak, so I just nodded. A quick smile reshaped her face, then she was serious again. You really should stay away from me, she warned. I'll see you in class. She spun on her heel, then quickly walked back the way we'd come. And that's the end of chapter 4. I said reading chapter 5 was a big maybe, so this is just going to be chapter 4 because my throat is killing me. Oh, and my knees because I was sitting crisscross. Oh. Anyways, Jesus, that took me 40 minutes. Okay. Oh. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed chapter 4, Invitations of Life and Death. I need to go to bed. Good night.